You're listening to another ambitious entrepreneurnetwork.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Welcome to Smart Connect Podcast, the podcast for small to medium-sized enterprises. Join your host, Anne-Marie Cross, as she interviews business experts and industry thought leaders on best practice initiatives, innovation, and insights to help you grow your business. Now, over to your host.
Welcome to another Smart Connect podcast. This is episode 12 and we feature business experts and industry thought leaders to help you effectively navigate a constantly changing and disruptive marketplace. And my name is Anne-Marie Cross. My guest today supports Henry Ford's line of vision without execution is just hallucination. And I wonder, are you taking ruthless execution in your business, or are you just waiting for everything to be perfect? Well, join me on today's show is Stewart Clark, and Stewart says, don't wait for perfection, 80% will normally do. Now, Stewart Clark is the Director of SCS Performance, and they specialise in the area of business performance improvement, growing bottom line profit and developing enterprise value. Now, following along about 27 years in the finance sector, Stewart now enjoys working with small to medium-sized businesses to challenge thought, analyse results and implement a greater level of discipline in their business, all aligned to delivering improved performance and value. Stewart's also a published author, a certified business broker, an experienced speaker and facilitator. Now on today's show, Stewart's going to speak about why considered planning, ruthless execution and then measurement, monitoring and management for sustained improvement is key if we want to grow our business, as well as the business environment. It's ever changing, and if you're not changing with it, then guess what? You're going to be left behind, as well as 4 critical elements in business that you should be focusing on, what they are and what each involves. So welcome to the show, Stewart.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Great to be with you.
Look, so some of the things you're going to be talking about, I think, are so crucial, particularly, yes, we are in a changing marketplace. Many businesses that I speak to are quite worried about the rapid change that's going on in the market. And you say, you know, sometimes you've just got to take action in the right steps, of course. So I'm sure you're going to share lots of what we should be focusing on, what we should be doing in our business today.
Absolutely. And I think probably change is about the only constant that I think you see in business at all these days.
Yes.
Because every element is always moving and evolving.
Now, one of the things that I encourage all of our guests to do is to send through some quotes, and we'll certainly be sharing those. One of the things that stood out, and I want to just dive into that before we cover the key points today, you say it's never the message, always the delivery. And that really piqued my interest. What do you mean by that?
Look, it's a case of the way that I see it, honesty is so key in business, whether it be with staff, whether it be customers, etc. And I find that people really get sort of hung up on the message, and sometimes it's not always as honest or as clear as it needs to be. Okay. I actually find that it's not the message that counts, it's actually how you deliver it. Because over the years, the good messages everybody loves to talk about, but it's the hard messages, it's the ones where, look, the numbers aren't shaping up or the performance is not there. Now, there's always, of course, a reason behind it, but if you stop and give a little bit of thought to how you're going to deliver that message, you'll actually be able to deliver what can sometimes be a really hard message, but delivered in a way that people will actually listen to it. Rather than just reacting, take it on board and you get mileage and you get value out of it. So I try really hard, especially in written forms of communication especially, I really try very hard to think about how the message will be delivered, how it will land and resonate to the audience, rather than just sort of, firing off a response and seeing World War III erupt, which can often be the case.
And sometimes taking that time to consider how we're delivering it can make all the difference, because if you do just send something blatantly without any thought, the damage that you do and what you have to do to go into, okay, we need to gather up our thoughts, we've got a bit of a crisis on our hand, can be far worse than, okay, taking the time to consider that. Great insights there. So Stewart, you say that considered planning is really important, so is ruthless execution, and then going on to measure, monitor and manage our businesses for sustained improvement, and that is key. Why are we getting it so wrong, do you think?
Well, look, I think a lot of people always like to act and do stuff.
Yep.
Without really necessarily stopping and thinking about whether in fact that's the right thing to be doing. So a lot of business owners these days will even those that want to create a business, you know, the thought is I want to start a business, I want to be out there running my own show, without necessarily stopping thinking, well, is there actually an opportunity for me to run a business? Do I have all of the right planning, products, systems, all those little bits and pieces that we know kind of makes businesses work, but they just haven't considered it. And let's face it, planning, wow, gee, if you want to put an audience to sleep, start talking about good, solid business planning. Believe me, people will be catching a nap inside about 30 seconds. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it's essential. And one of the quotes, and I can't remember if this was on the list or not, was that I find it's incredibly cheap to plan on paper, but very expensive to experiment in the real world.
Yes.
And that's what good, solid planning can do for you. It can avoid a lot of that experimentation in the more expensive business environment.
I absolutely agree. And you talk about planning and businesses start to yawn, business owners. Tell me, when you're thinking about some of the common or the more typical business planning that businesses assume they need to be putting into place, are they getting that right, or is it quite wrong? The planning that you do with your clients has some key factors that you know are integral when it comes to not only planning, but then obviously taking action to ensure what you've visioned or what you've envisioned, you start to generate in your business.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of different parts there. I think firstly with the business planning, sure, we have our own business planning templates and models that we use. We're familiar with them and we use them through all of our different programs. But I'm less hung up on the actual template that people use. I'm more focused on how they actually use it. And at the moment, I think you can jump on the web and pull off probably a dozen different business planning templates in about 5 minutes. The secret, however, is to stop and actually give them a considered thought. And the considered thought is not writing a business plan in one afternoon because it's raining outside. It's stopping and firstly deciding, well, what am I actually trying to achieve? Which, of course, is really the vision. That's the vision for the individual, and that's the vision for the business, because I know that for a business vision to be sustainable, it has to align with a personal vision. And that's where we start with all of our plans, and then we slowly build them out from there, looking at the different elements of a good business plan as we move forward, and making sure that we really do give the thought, give the structure and the rigor to making a clear plan with then the executable actions that hang off the back of it. Because it's all well and good to have a wonderful business plan, but unless you actually go out and do things, then you're not going to actually achieve it. So that's when I like to see the execution. And I use the word ruthless execution quite deliberately because it gets people to stop and think, well, what's that about? There is an element of urgency to get things moving, to get things done. We're very practical in our planning and our coaching services, and all of our clients know what the task list is like. Everybody also knows what the meeting outputs emails are like, because that's what comes from every meeting. There is definable actions that we're going to get X done this week or this fortnight, whatever it may be, so that in a week or a fortnight's time, that's been achieved, or we've incrementally moved closer to what our goal or objective is. And that's where that ruthless execution comes in, because it's very easy to lose a day, a week, a month, and be sitting there scratching your head thinking, well, hang on, nothing's really changed. Yeah, well, that's because you've not actually achieved anything. So understand clearly what it is that you need to achieve and why, and make sure it's the right stuff. Then get the actions clear and get into them and get them done.
Wise insights there. I mean, how many times do you hear business owners joking, and it's actually true. They say, I'm writing the business plan for the bank or whoever, and then it gets filed in the drawer. Well, you know what? You're obviously not taking any action whatsoever if your business plan is sitting in the bottom of a drawer somewhere. So pull it out, dust it off, and make sure it's got some of the key things that you've just mentioned. So the business environment, as we know, is ever changing, and if we're not changing with it, then we'll be left behind. And in fact, just recently I was one of a number of business people, Stewart, that had a roundtable, a Business Futures roundtable with the Minister, and change was something that was top of the list. Very many people were worried about it. Why do businesses need to take stock of this? They need to be aware and need to be up with the changes. Otherwise, they're just not only going to be left behind, some of them are going to be out of business, aren't they?
That's correct. And the environment is something that most business owners, most small business owners have got absolutely no control over. So they are very much reactive to somebody else's marketplace, because they're just a very small pinprick in quite a large ocean of businesses and operators. So as I said at the very start, change to me is probably about the only constant I've known, and I'm always looking at what's moving in the market. I was doing a little bit of research before for a client meeting tomorrow, and I noticed that some of the research material was quite dated, and I found myself thinking, gee, I wonder if that's still actually relevant in today's market, because technology moves. We look at the geopolitical climate. We look at exchange rate movements. We even look at currently some movements in the local funding market here. All of these have changes, been applied to the individual business owner. So it's wise that they're focused on their business, absolutely. But part of being focused on the success of their business is being aware of their operating environment and of course what could potentially impact them positively or negatively as they move forward.
One of the things that came up across all of the businesses, and I don't know if some of your clients or even yourself are a bit of worried about this, is here in Australia. Did you know that we're about 50th when it comes to our internet? That's something that needs to be changed on a federal basis, because many of the technologies that are rolling out, we may not even be able to access them to the optimum if we haven't got fast enough internet speeds. But anyway, that's for a whole other show. I absolutely digress. Are there certain areas that you would say businesses must be aware of, or at least maintain a level of awareness around, because if there are changes in these areas, sooner than later they will find that they're just not able to catch up? Are there some key things? I mean, you already mentioned, political climate, local funding, other things, but when you're working with businesses, do you recommend that there are some key things that they should maintain an awareness around?
Yeah, look, there's probably three that would be top of mind for me in that situation. Target market. So who are we actually selling to? I don't mind whether it's a product or a service, but your end client, things that are going to impact that client position. Car industry is a great one in Australia, for instance. If you were supplying to the car industry 5 years ago, then you would have been very, very concerned. And today, unless you've evolved your business, you're probably not in business. So I'm always encouraging businesses to have a good look at who their target market is. And, of course, through the considered planning, we're really actually focusing on that target market quite intensely. But things that will impact them, I think, is probably number one. Number two would be on the supply side. So if you're supplying a product or a service, what could inhibit you? And as you mentioned a moment ago, the poor web speed in Australia overall, with everything going to a cloud-based environment, that's quite limiting. So if you're got reliance on that sort of infrastructure, then positives or negatives in that are a real issue. And I think a good level of security and backup protection and fallback options for that cloud-based environment is also worth having.
Yes.
And I think probably then the third one is the competition. Now, this may be quite simply another business exactly like yours just down the road, and figuratively, if you're in a virtual environment or physically, understanding where they're at, who they are, and where they're going, but also just being a little bit attentive to the fact of, oh, okay, well, our competition may come from somebody very different tomorrow because they might be using that better technology or different systems that are ultimately going to steal away our sales or position or customers as we know them. So those are probably the three areas that I encourage people to just be ever attentive to. And I'm not saying that this is a sit-down meeting once a week or once a month where you analyse those 3 points, but they should be in your operational cycle of your review of the business to ensure that, no, that's stable. I'm a bit concerned about, there's some new technology coming out in this space. How is that going to impact us? So just being ever present.
Let's talk about the 4 critical elements in business that we should be focusing on. So, Stewart, what are they and what do we need to be aware in each of those 4 areas?
Look, it is a bit of a generalisation, I think, because every business has got its own particular subtleties, which may sort of move things around a bit. But if I was to talk in general terms, good considered planning is vital up front for many of the reasons we've already covered. Margins, that financial understanding of where you make money and where you don't. To me, it's pointless to operate a business, to be selling a product or service and not actually making a profit from it. But it scares me how few business owners can look me clearly in the eye with confidence and tell me that they make a margin from their product. So margins, then it's the market and the sales. And the market, or the marketing for me, is really clearly understanding who you are selling your services or products to, where they are, what they do, how they exist, all the relevant buying patterns, as well as, of course, whether in fact they can afford your product or service. And then it's selling. And I finish with the selling side of it because I don't actually get paid personally until I actually sell a product or service.
Yes.
I don't get paid for likes on the web. Sure, that may contribute. I don't get paid for collecting some free information off the web or hearing me speak, etc. All of those are elements, but really selling and being able to take a lead and convert it into a sale, I feel is such an important and critical element within business that many don't really think too hard about. There's some natural salespeople out there, but there's a lot that aren't naturals and really do need to consider it, think about it, and put some good structure in place to be able to sell effectively.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, you can have the best product or service, you can have the best planning, the best margins and the best marketing, but if you're not able to convert those, warm and hot leads into a sale, then you're just going to go out of business really quickly. Let's talk a little bit about margins because, I mean, I know that, and I think you've got even some success stories that you can share within this area too. And why I ask that is because just recently I went to an expo and I was speaking to a group or a business owner there who was selling products, so natural products, a hand cream and so forth. And I'm sure that I saw them in local supermarkets, in the shopping centres and the middle of the hub and so forth. And he said, well, look, we used to do that, but the cost to do that was so astronomical. He said, we've taken all of our products, we've now put them online, we've been able to halve in some of our products the cost to our clients, and we've increased our amount of sales and even the margins on the product because of that. Now, if you start to look at different ways that you can sell your business, offer it to your clients and so forth, you start to shift around that area of margins, you can make a significant impact on your bottom line, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're probably given a fantastic example there that it was the internal margins, it was the cost of delivery of their product that they were able to shrink. And of course, all other things being equal, suddenly there's a lot more money at the bottom line.
Yeah.
And even the title of the book I wrote, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. It's exactly talking to this particular point. I do not get excited by a turnover number, albeit most business owners will be happy to talk about, we've got lots of sales coming through the door. Personally, I'm incentivized. My whole operations and all the things I do day to day and that with my team is to actually make more money for our business owners at the bottom line.
Yeah.
And to your point about improving, I've actually found, for several clients now over time, where we've actually been looking at particular products and we've looked at it and thought, you know what, there's no point selling that. So we stopped because the product itself was actually costing them more money to deliver than what they were actually selling it for.
Yeah.
We often find this also with hourly cost recovery rates for many businesses that have service technicians, etc., on the road.
Mm-hmm.
They start actually working out, well, how much does it cost me to have that person attend that site for 1 hour? And they look at what they're charging them out for and think, well, we're not actually making money out of that. No, you're not. Now, that may be part of a wider strategy, but at least let's have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So margins are just so critically important, and this is also something that moves because all of those different inputs that may be coming in and from landing product from overseas, or could be just your power bills going up or fuel costs. What may have been profitable 6 months ago may no longer be profitable now. So this is also not just a static activity that you do once and give the big tick to and don't have to do that again. No, it's one of those business disciplines that we're looking to sort of implement, that not only you're looking at your margins today, but you're learning how to calculate it so that you can, in fact, do it again in, I think, probably quarterly or 6 monthly is probably the better sort of time, just to make sure that, yes, we are still making an appropriate margin from that particular product. And if we're no longer making an appropriate margin from that product, then we may choose to stop selling that product and put our limited financial resources into some other products that sell at a better rate for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said there is key, that whatever products that you have, you really have to have a clear understanding on the costing structure. I remember years ago, and I'm talking decades ago, I worked at a place that manufactured and sold shade cloth sales in little gazebos and so forth. And they picked up a big order and, they costed it out and they thought everything was just honky-dory. And then the accountant said, hey, who's done a costing on that? And they said, we've just kind of guesstimated. But when I actually went through all the little nuts and bolts and how long the machinists were working to fabricate it step by step, and we realized that our cost, our cost was way over what unfortunately the project manager had costed it out at. That kind of thing can just eat into your profits. And then of course when you're buying more more materials, if it's overseas and you've got the exchange rate and all that kind of stuff, you've got to allow for that, don't you? You've got to track it, otherwise your costs could just blow out. Are there any other areas in the four? I mean, I know we covered very brief, very in depth the planning area. We've talked about margins, marketing and sales. Are there some things either in marketing or sales that you want to speak to, just to give some insights that you've seen? If we don't get these key things in place, then unfortunately we're not going to be as profitable, and we're certainly not going to see sustained growth in our business.
Yeah, I think probably on the marketing side of things, there's a couple of points there. Firstly, your target market. Now, we spend quite a bit of time with our clients understand who, in fact, we are marketing to, because by understanding who that virtual picture is, and I talk about often a 360-degree view of your target market, who they are, where they buy, what they buy at the same stage, etc. The more complete the picture of your target market, the more appropriate you can be with your marketing. Your advertising copy will be written in a language that your target market understands.
Yes.
You will advertise and market in areas that they will be looking at, and you may bundle it in different ways that makes it simpler for them to understand or to buy. So I think that is certainly a key marketing element. Understand who that is. I think equally there, it's also your point of difference. Why you? Why would they buy a product from you? What do you do better than anybody else? Is it the type of product? Is it the price of the product? Is it the speed of delivery? Is it the colour, the texture? All of these different elements. Once again, by understanding clearly your point of difference compared to anybody else, then you're able to provide a far more effective message. And those are probably the key ones for me on the marketing side of things.
Stuart, I just want to dive in and talk a little bit about who our ideal clients are. I find that many business owners, we tend to struggle with that, or we don't go deep enough. We don't ask the right kind of questions. And one of the things that often comes up too that business owners say is, well, how can we find out that information? Are there any insights you can share around that to help us to know, okay, where do we go to kind of find out that information?
Yeah, well, asking is always a good place.
Oh, that's a good thing, yeah.
Little bit of research is good, but I find that speaking to your existing clients is always an absolute mine of information, because rather than sitting there just kind of guessing, oh, we think they want this, or they think they'll like this, well, it's not actually that scary. If you go and ask them and think about the delivery of your question, by all means, but ask them, what would they like to see more of, or how could they improve our service, etc. What would make life a little bit simpler for them? These sorts of very open questions can suddenly provide an avalanche of things that you would have never considered.
Yes,
because it's coming from their perspective rather than your own. And of course, what we're also looking for, and sometimes this will kill off a product or a service, is that your target market may in fact not be able to pay the sort of money that you need to for that product that you're trying to sell. So that means that you've either got to change your product or change your target market.
Yeah, that can happen a lot, can't it? Where a business will say, well, there's such a need there, people need that, but are they paying for it? Will they be willing to invest? And unfortunately, there may be a huge need, but if that demographic is just not investing, then we may be spending a lot of money to try and get those clients to say yes. Stewart, you have been a wealth of information. How can people find out more? And just share a little bit about SCS Performance.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tongue twister. Sorry about that one.
No, that's all right.
So look, SCS Performance, we're a business coaching consultancy firm. We tend to these days have a good spread of clients in a number of different industries. What we've been able to do is develop a strong suite of programs which they've all got exactly the same content backbone behind them. All the philosophies we've talked about today, all of the tools, they're all exactly the same. What varies is the delivery. So, of course, that means that we've got higher-end products which are a lot more a one-to-one basis, a lot more hands-on, through to our lower products which are a lot more mechanised and online for one of the products, so that people, every business out there, can afford some quality coaching. Just depends on, of course, what their resources are. Now, dropping onto the scsperformance.com.au website, you'll find there's a plethora of information about our products, their services, the philosophy. There's quite a swag of different articles we've written over time for clients. We then just kind of clean them up a little bit, take out the names, and we put them into our blog library, so that if we found that there's a need for one of our clients in a particular area, we'll fix something up for them, and then we'll make it available to the wide public. So there's a lot of material on there, and what I normally encourage people to do is drop onto the website and play with anything that is there, because whatever we put on the website is designed for people to utilise, and that enables you to understand how we see businesses, because it's very, very practical. We're all about getting things actually done rather than just talking about it, and I think you'll see that come across in spades when you look at the different tools and the different services, and of course the different programs that we run.
Fantastic. And one more time, can you share your web address?
Yes, it's scsperformance.com.au.
Fantastic. So thanks once again for coming on the show, Stewart.
Oh, my pleasure, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me.
Well, that brings us to the end of another show. Please reach out to Stewart. As you can see, he's a wealth of information and they can help you grow your business. Now, if you want to connect with Australia's foremost collective of business experts and thought leaders to SMEs, go to www.ssba.net.au. That's ssba.net.au.